Hey guys, hey trendsetters. We are here tonight with the dynamic Maxine E. Lewis of the Carlton Locksley Bennett Foundation. You know that we're doing these initiatives, these anti-gun violence initiatives, so that we can raise awareness and we can stop these tragedies from happening in our communities. We're here tonight to speak with a mother that has lost a son due to gun violence. And one of the main reasons I wanted to speak to Miss Lewis was because her tragedy occurred over in the 90s. These is decades ago, and we are still faced with these tragedies on a consistent basis, even more so now than ever before. And we got together and we started talking. I know her story, very familiar with, and she knows mine. And we decided, let's jump on, let's talk about this, let's be transparent about what's going on in our communities and in our lives and see how it has affected us and how we can heal and move forward. So welcome, Maxine. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for this opportunity and thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. I know that this is not an easy conversation, but we're prepared for this, right? So,
Yes.
I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I mean, tell me a little bit about your story so we can get the viewers to understand and what brings us here tonight.
So again, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity again to share my story. And it's not just my story, it's a lot of women out there, a lot of mothers'
A lot
stories, a
of
lot of
families.
families' story.
You
So
absolutely right.
there's a pandemic or an epidemic, whatever we want to call it, in our children being murdered, being shot and killed, senseless gun violence. At the age of 16 years old, my son was shot and killed for a gold chain. That's what brought me to this place. My son was the most loving child I know. Touch it, feel it. He has passion, he have ambition, he has drive, and he had dreams, aspiration. And on one cold night in February 6th, Friday night into a Saturday morning, 1993, he was shot and killed for a gold chain. That places me or put me in a position that I never think I would recover from. And I always tell people this, not because you see me and I laugh or I joke or I gain how many pounds after that. It's not because I'm so happy or all of that. Right now, I'm not in a place where I see many mothers are, but any given day, I can be in that place. I've said it over the years that burying a child is like there's an open wound, just that the outside is healed, but the inside is still raw. You get up one morning, and it could be that morning where everything is upside down. You watch the news, everything could be upside down. A phone call, you hear something, social media. It is just a pain. One of the mothers said, it's a club no mothers want to join. And it's so true. Because when the other mothers are going through their stuff, 6 months, 5 months after, whatever, you are going through it with them as well. So it's so hard. It's a devastation. There is a mother out there struggling right now, struggling that I know of, but there are many that may be struggling that I don't know of. How do they deal with this? How do I cope with my only child being killed for nothing? People would say you're at the wrong place at the wrong time. stray bullet, mistaken identity, all these things are robbing our children. And that's my story, in the sense to say someone decided that my son had a chain, and they felt they had the need for that chain, which didn't belong to them. So they wanted it, and they would go to any measures to have that chain. That is sad. That is so sad, beyond sad. And that's what put me at this place, Heidi.
I'm so sorry to hear. And one of the words that you used was senseless. How can we bring sense to anyone being gunned down for any reason? For any reason, you know, um, we share personal stories, in the 90s, I lost my very, very best friend as well to gun violence. As you said, there's not a day that I don't wish that I could pick up the phone and call him,
Yeah,
or hear his voice, or joke around, or even just it's a pain that never goes away, right?
yes.
And then I have a nephew that was taken away from our family as well due to gun violence last year. And now, just recently, I understand that I got a phone call, or I made a phone call and found out that a girlfriend of mine was killed by her husband.
Yeah,
So enough is enough.
enough is enough.
Enough is
And
enough. I mean, we're going to talk about your story. We're going to talk about how you felt receiving that phone call, because this is a phone call that many mothers are receiving.
yes, oh, yes.
You know,
And there is no way that you can prepare yourself, because if your child is not home, you're not thinking then that something like that going to happen. They're going to go and they're going to come back. That's what you believe. That's what has passed being in the present. You're not thinking. So a phone call come for somebody to tell you, this young man to tell me, mom says to come to the morgue because Lux was shot in the head and he's dead. I mean, just the thought of that, is so big. You don't want that. You don't want something like that to happen, but you can't stop it because it's what you are told, it's what's already happened. So you just have to live with it. You can't change it. You just have to live with it.
talk to me about that space. Talk to me about what that means. What initially you get the phone call. Some mothers, some friends, some family members are even there when the incident occurs or shortly thereafter. That experience throws you in a whole different world. Me as a mother, I have a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old. I have 15-year-old and 16-year-old sons. And it's funny you say that you prepare for them to come back home, but now the world is, when they're out there, you're praying that they come back home.
Yeah.
It's changed so much that the trauma is uncertainty. I got a 36-year-old son that I got to make sure that he comes home from work.
Yes. Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm like, you're restless.
Of course.
There is no more peace.
None.
And how is that fair to a community? How do you move forward when this has become so normal? And why has it become so normal? You know, this is what got us here now. How we reach here?
And that's some of the question, that people are asking, and myself and the mothers, the groups that I am in, we feel that other people accept it. They just accept, or maybe they don't accept it, but based on their action, it doesn't seem like they are fighting or wanting answers or doing anything to help. Some of the young boys or young kids, or because the age are younger now as the shooters, and you're not finding parents that is doing what a lot of mothers, even in my days, I checked book bags, I checked the mattress, and at that time I wasn't looking for no gun. You just want to know that everything, whatever you're looking, I look in the garbage pail. But now some of the parents is not giving, doing those things, and that's one of the things that is more devastating than what it used to be on. It's hard. It's very hard, to deal with these things, to cope with it. And it's not normal. Some of the word, I don't want to be a snitch. I don't want to get, they're afraid to. Some of them are afraid.
You touched on two very important things. You talked about the community becoming desensitized. And this is a word that we're using to mask the reality of what's happening. We're so traumatized. This has become such a repetition that it's numbed us. So I don't think that it's alleviating the importance or the value of these tragedies, but it's a consistency. Every time you turn on the radio, every time you look at your phone, every time you look at the news, the first thing is someone's been shot. That's the first thing that you're hearing. It's such a repetition of this. So it's not devalued in any way. It just has us numb. And to move past that and to move into your regular operations of the day, you kind of got to force yourself to move past it. Or Maxine, you're going to get stuck. And sometimes we have to get stuck in a place where it's uncomfortable to feel what we feel in order to allow us to stand up.
Yeah.
I think the reason why a lot of people haven't stand up or stood up is not because they haven't been affected. It's because of the consistency. And there's people that are higher and that are in charge. And why has it been a consistency? Some people want to speak up, but that means holding other people to a level of accountability.
Yes.
And this is where the community begins to get fearful, right?
Yes.
Or the individual, because the narrative is, look at how many other people have stood up and look at where they ended up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's safety in numbers.
True.
And we can't continue to not talk about things that need to be spoken about. I spoke to a young lady just this week, and she told me, Heidi, I don't drive down a certain block because I just don't know. So now we're beginning to develop coping mechanisms, right?
Yes.
My kids go, I'm not going outside. It's not safe out there. There's shots ringing out outside of his school.
Yes.
How can you perform in the school building when outside the school building is gunshots?
True.
You know, so we're not normalizing this thing, but we've been so beaten and traumatized that how we gonna get past if we're expected to have some normality in our lives? We know parents, both you and I, that their children will succumb to gun violence.
Yeah.
Your own story, you know how hard it is to get past the mental and psychological toll
Yes.
that it takes and everything that was taken away from you.
Yeah. And I know for a fact that's one of the hardest things that people that have not experienced it doesn't have a clue about. You know, I have friends when my son was killed several months later. In fact, one of the other questions that people come at you with to ask you if your kid was into something. Were they in a gang? Were they doing something illegal? Because I guess whatever connotation is with that, that people just believe you have to be in a gang. I guess then,
It's
compared to
excusable.
now, you know,
Does that make it excusable? Does that make
it
it
doesn't. It
understand?
doesn't make it
What are you,
better.
you know, like, I'm like, where would that question come from? You know, I even heard when I told someone that my girlfriend was shot, the first question that was given to me was, what did she do?
Yes, yes, yes.
And I'm like, what did you just ask me?
Yeah.
Like, is there ever an excuse for somebody to take a next person's life?
Mm-hmm.
And it's stupidity.
Yeah.
You know, you're sitting here today because your son had a chain. So a chain is
Mhm.
valued of him losing his life,
Yeah.
you
A
know?
change.
And I've heard people shot dead for their cars, for tax
Parking
life.
spot. I've known of
When
people
does it
being
ever make
killed,
sense? When does it ever
many
make sense?
things, many simple things we would say,
And
senseless.
and insensitive. How can there be justification? And this is what we need to have the conversation for. There is no justification, regardless what a person was involved with. There's no justification for
Yes.
taking someone's life. You know, I struggle with certain things, right? So I would say, like I said, there's no justification for taking someone's life. However, you know, my personal thing is, I don't know about these pedophiles. I don't know about these sex traffickers, but then,
Yeah.
but
Right.
you understand what I'm saying? God's
I
doing.
understand. I understand.
However, you just an individual.
Mm-hmm.
You live in life. We just trying to get by the same way. If you can look at me and I can look at you, that means we on the same playing ground. There's no difference in our space.
Yes.
How can you just decide this is the one this day? How can you just decide, like you said, to a barrage of bullets and then one kill an 11-year-old child in a playground?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How can you just decide to make decisions? You know, I had somebody say that it's not the shooter, it's the one that receives the bullet.
Mm.
That's where the pain begins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not the one that shot the gun.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because who they're leaving behind,
Yes.
the domino. And trauma is something that's written into and embedded into our DNA.
Yeah.
So now the next generation is coming and they're desensitized because of how the trauma is playing out within them. So they're becoming lack
And
of lack of
that can,
regard for life.
exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because it's so repetitious. And look, if I make it to be 20, and at one point I used to hear, if I make it to be 30,
Mhm.
now
Yeah.
I'm hearing if I make it to be 20.
Yeah.
The ridiculousness is we're painting murals and the younger generation is calling them, what's the term that they use? Community legends.
Wow.
So the
Hmm.
ideology is, if I can make it to be a mural,
Then you're a community legend. Don't
then
make any sense.
I'll live forever. So it doesn't matter
Mm-mm.
if my life
Don't make sense.
get cut down. So now kids are living to be painted on a wall. Yeah, we got to do something different. This is the reason why we have Trendsetters talk. This is the reason why we talking. This is the reason why it just not making no sense, no sense, no sense at all.
Yes. Yes.
We have to have these conversations because it's ludicrous.
Yes.
This is ludicrous. We can't continue to be desensitized. We can't continue to act like this is not happening. We can't continue and we know it's happening, but we can't
Yes.
keep turning our backs. And we can't keep saying, well, it hasn't affected me, because it has affected you. You're not driving down the same streets. Your kids is not going outside. You're not even walking the same place that and this, that, and the other. Y'all not going out in the
Exactly.
dark. It's affecting us. So even if you say that, I don't know, yes, you know somebody. We all know somebody who knows somebody by now.
True.
And that's a problem. And that's a problem. One of the things that you've done is start the Carlton Locksley Foundation in
Yes.
memory of your son.
Yes.
Um, it's a phenomenal, dynamic organization. I mean, how did you get to the place after such a tragedy to even encompass an idea of this? How?
Um, that was one of the things because after my son died, all I think about was he's not here. As I said, he had all his aspiration. He was such a charmer. He was such a loving kid. He loved sports. He loved soccer. The fun part of it is that I found out sometime this year as well that he loved baseball.
Oh,
I found out, a young man that saw a friend from my school on social media. I have a page, the Carlton Locksley Bennett Foundation page on Facebook. So and just reach out to me and just chatting back and forth. He told me that him and my son, they used to go to baseball and play baseball, that they both love baseball. But the
wow.
group for the soccer team didn't know that they were playing baseball. And he said he loved baseball, but soccer was their first love. So based on all that, my son wanted to be an engineer. Um, and he just figured that maybe one day he's going to be the greatest, like Pele, soccer player. He's going to be that great soccer player, he
That's
just
why there's a
walked in.
soccer ball on my shirt,
There you go. So when I see all of that, knowing, oh my goodness, nobody's gonna know him. No one gonna know his history. No one gonna know who he was. I selfishly said I can't afford that. That was my thought. And I said, I have to do something. So my first thought came to my mind was to have a multi-purpose center where women, mothers who have lost children to gun violence and their children come and provide all those services, bereavement and all of those. But then in my head, I'm like, when as a parent, a mother, and we have said it in our conversation, when our children are okay, we are okay because that's what we want for them. And I said, that's the best thing to do. I'll do a foundation to bring young people in that they can receive a lot of help through this organization. As I said, my son was a soccer player. They can come in and play soccer. They can come in and get some LOV, some love there. They can come and just get together. And those parents going to realize that their kids are safe. I also realize that a lot of young people struggle with school, and some of them were dropping out of school. What can I do to encourage them to stay in school? So that's when we came up with the Carlton Locksley Bennett Foundation. And our mission was to provide scholarship for tuition, school clothing, clothing for prom, graduation, senior dues, bereavement, spiritual connection, and all these things to bring these young people together. And that will help the parents. Their mind won't go that far and think, because they'll believe that their kids are safe. Not only that, they're going to school and some of them can't afford any school supplies, nothing. And this is an organization that can help you with a dress for prom, uniform for school, MetroCard, food on your table, senior dues. I've known young students that graduate high school and couldn't be in the yearbook because they couldn't um, afford senior dues. They couldn't. So when I see that, to get their picture taken, to be in the yearbook with their funny stories or whatever, dressed up, going to their graduation, going to prom, I said, no, they have to do these things. And then the thing is, my son didn't get to do any of those. So I just like, I'm reliving him through them, if that makes sense. I'm
Yeah,
seeing,
yeah.
and I said, these are my children. I just feel so good to do this. And that was my selfish reason, but then it became more than just a selfish reason. It come like, this is so much needed. We have helped so many students, we have helped so many families. So after a while, it's like, it's bigger than what I was thinking, that this is it, and the need is there. Not only that, one of the bigger part of it is we could help these youths that they wouldn't have to go and ask the wrong person for help. So that was a big thing for me as well. They didn't have to go out there, whatever they need to ask, to
Can
get
you
into
share
the
with
wrong
us
thing.
some of your success stories, some of your stories? You have so many stories. Share with us some of your stories. I know you told me about the girl at prom. You told me about, so many different stories that you had.
Yes. And it just bring this peace to me, it just let me feel good. So although on one hand, my son is not here, I am 16 years old. That's the last time. It's 31 years now. My son would have been what, 48 years old now. So now many years I was looking at people to say, I wonder what a a 43-year-old man look like? I wonder what a so-and-so man look like. What would he look like, you know? And all of the, would he have facial hair? Would this? So those are all the things, you know, when you look and you see your kid, he didn't get to graduate high school. He didn't get to get married, have children. You know, none of the thing that a young boy should have the opportunity to receive and do. His life was cut short. His life was totally cut short. And those are some of the deep rooted agony that I feel. One of the thing, you know, is not being able to see him play soccer. I never got that opportunity. What was this working mother running to work to support 3 children? So my aim was I drop him to the soccer field, I even pick him up or whatever, but I've never had the time, according to myself then, to go watch a game. I go to open school night, I did all those other stuff. But that thing that he loved so much, I didn't have that opportunity. But I do hope that one day I'll see a video because I know they had those videos back then taken and Canarsie High School Chief Soccer. Yes, I'm sending that out there, Trendsetter, so somebody can say, oh, I remember this. Here is a video, you know? So it is just a sad part of your life, but you have to, based on what we do. We have 2 programs as well from the Carlton Locksley Bennett Foundation, the PAC program, Partnership Affecting Changing Teens. And this is the one that we get a mentor and hook them up, so to speak, or fix them with a mentor that balance them, you know, so they know they have someone to speak with, you know, and things like that. So it benefit them, you know, that they have someone to talk to. Young people sometimes do not have anyone to talk to,
Right.
and they may talk to their own peers, which some of the decision that's made may not be the right decision. So we have that. And then our most, it's not even recent, like 2011, we came up with, well, I came up with a vision. Or I'm saying God spoke to me and said, take back the children. And I will not forget March 8th, 2011. March 8th is his birthday. And I
Oh,
was in my office just crying, not because I was so sad, but because I was happy that I went to work on a March 8th. I haven't been to work on a March 8th
wow.
over the course of years. And that one, I was there at work and just thanking God for
Yes.
being at work. And I heard it, take back the children.
Mm.
And take back that I respond, take back the children. How do you take back the children? I'm like, how do I take back black? You know, it's not here. Actually, now, how do you take back the children? And somebody came into my office 5 minutes later and I said, what do you think about a program, something called Take Back the Children? She pulled up a seat in my office, a social worker, and there was a conversation. And I was like, yes. So what we did, we have what we call Take Back the Children. I'm sorry, Take Back the Children campaign. So over the course of years, everything we did was to take back the children, you know. So we wanted parents and family and communities to know and understand that not only me as the founder and the president, but you as a mother, as a father, as a sister, as a brother, the elected official, your neighbor, you can take back a child, meaning that you are reaching out to help someone. You are giving them, you are directing them. And that's what's so needed in our community, that it's
Absolutely.
so vast. We have to give that love. I hear people talk about, let's get back to the village mentality. But then the village mentality, you have some of these parents that you can't even talk to their children because, they're going to curse you out. You have some of the parents that don't even want to talk to their own children. So again, you have to find a way of meeting this family somewhere along there and encourage. And then we came up with the part of this Take Back Our Children campaign with a fellowship for change, meaning that we want to do a program for 20 kids at a time from 16 to 24 or 15 to 24. And we want to bring them into a 6 month, at least a 6 month kind of work setting where we are teaming up with people that have restaurants. We're teaming up with elected officials. We're teaming up with the supermarket, the lawyer's office, etc. That one of those kids, we can bring them that they can go there and do tour and sit down there. We want to take them out of Brooklyn and bring them to Washington, to bring them to that museum. We want to show them things that are out there that they can get it and they can be a part of it, that it don't have to be like what it look, for them to set their self higher standard. And international, we would love to do that. We would love to take a bunch of kids to go to Paris or Europe or somewhere, China, different places, for them to see something different, and in themselves they can say, wow, what they have in them, they can understand, not because they go away, but because of this program. So that's one of our newer program, the Fellowship for Change. We need money for that. We have been honestly struggling. And when we come as a nonprofit organization, it's so hard if you're not getting fund. Not only that, if nobody know you're that personal as well.
Right.
So those are some of the things that we do and more too.
You touched on is two things that I'm gonna piggyback, but one of the things that you said that was so important, and I want to talk about a little with you, is you said that the parents are engageable. That too, we got to contribute to their own
Yes.
personal traumas, right?
True.
And what I mean by that is, you have the narrative that, yeah, my kid is a bad kid, right? So sometimes when you're reaching out for assistance and you're reaching out for help, you get the door slammed in your face.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
Or you get rejected, or you got labeled,
Sure.
and very, very negatively. People don't want to have nothing to do with you because you got the quote unquote bad kid, or I've even heard people say to me, this is unbelievable, but people have said to me that people have told them, your kid kind of looked for this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
So how can I open up, and how can I trust if you already put me in a box?
Yes.
And sometimes there's a familiarity with other parents that was put in that same box.
Exactly.
So somehow they found a very unique place of support for one another. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yes.
now
Yes.
for outside of supports is very difficult for some.
Yes.
You said keywords: love, nurture, support, engagement. You said keywords, but it all comes down to a very non-judgmental, safe space.
Yes. And that's why it's so important, that we have those safe space in our community. I talk about the multipurpose center. Um, my son, my youngest son, I've started what he called part of the Carlton Locksley Bennett Foundation, the Locksley's Foundation, which is a soccer club. He's a soccer agent. And that's one of the things we want to get all these young people with talents, and even if they don't have talents, but they want to do a sport, to bring them in. And that's why it's so important that we get these facilities or resources in the communities, that we can engage not only the young people but the parents as well.
Absolutely.
Parents go through stuff and a lot of them don't know what to do, so they give up, and that's what happened. They don't want to get involved with anything because they know. But if you have a place that people can talk, and you can bring adults together, parents together, mothers together, and fathers, if the fathers want to come, but to talk about the community that you live in, and your children, and what's going on in the community that you live in, you can talk to each other about it. It don't have to be every time that the mayor or elected official have to come for you to show up. Show up for each other. Show up for your child, for your community.
You made a very, very, very important point, that you have to, one, find yourself as a resident in a community, in
Yes.
a space. One of the things that we don't do is show up at the council meetings, show up. You said show up. We really have to start showing up,
Yes.
because, we can't hold someone accountable for information that they don't know. And they may know,
Exactly.
and they may understand it, but they don't understand how it's affecting a community by and large, if the community
Exactly.
is not speaking up.
There you go.
You understand what I'm saying? So we do have to show up and be in people's faces. If we
Yes.
open up and start having conversations like, yo, what's going on with the community center? What's going on with this? What's going on with that? If we start showing up at places with intention, right?
Yeah.
In numbers, then maybe it will shift the way things are going.
I believe that. I
Mhm.
believe that because, I may live here and my next door neighbor may have no clue of what I am, what I'm going through. Years when I started to do the speak out on the block
Yeah.
and to speak on gun violence, and it came to me that I don't know everyone that lives on this block, but who says somebody not hurting from the same thing that I'm hurting from? And when I did it, there was a lady across the street and she said she knows something and she came over. She said, I have a son that was murdered too,
You see?
and there was a father that was riding on his bike and he stopped. He said, I'm a father that my son was killed. I'm giving out tracts and brochure invite and see three young men and kind of follow them to the bus stop. And one of them said, "Oh, I'm dealing with that." And I said, "What you mean?" He said, "My brother was killed." And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. When?" And that was in April last year. And he said, "Last week."
Jesus.
Yeah, just like that. He said last week.
I mean,
And he lives in my community. He said last week, and these are the things that is right up in our, not just my community, but majority of our communities that's taking over.
it's
And
the
we talk
majority
about
of
it.
our
This is
communities.
not normal. It's not. So we have to do something.
And it's so important that you said that. I'm out here in Houston. Most of the trendsetters know that I haven't been in New York for a while. And it's the same thing. The same way that my Citizens app used to go off in Brooklyn is the same thing if I'm getting alerts out here. It's
Yes.
happening all over. I got family members out in North Carolina that tell me about how Charlotte is turning over now. It's crazy. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
reason why Trendsetters is taking this initiative and bringing it what we're doing
Yeah.
because it's not cool.
Not at all.
You know, you also mentioned parent involvement, and I want to go back again and talk about the schools. You know, I was a member of a PTA that had 3 members,
Yeah.
you know, and I made a statement to a wide group of parents at an event that if my kid like apples and I'm on the PTA, we getting apples.
Mm.
I'm not, I don't know that your kid has an apple allergy.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? You can't get mad at me because we giving out apples. How we supposed to?
Conversation. Conversation.
And it's involvement.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Mm-hmm.
want certain things for your kids, if you want certain things to change, if you want certain things, if you have certain ideas, certain goals that you want your children to attain, then you have to be involved.
Definitely.
You can't put all the responsibility on somebody else to
That's
assume what it is people want on a larger scope. So
true.
this is what I'm saying. You know, the community kind of backed off. We need to get involved. We need to have, as you said, conversation. That's why we have Trendsetters Talk. So we
Yeah.
can start conversations again. So we can talk and, you know, talk for one another.
Yes.
You understand? We all have conversations. We have conversation. I had conversation with a 17-year-old kid who told me that his friend bled out in his arms.
My goodness. So you see all that trauma and
So,
that person, that young man now, all that
and he was
trauma that he just
expected,
got.
and he
Yeah.
was expected to succeed in school. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
talk about the dropout rates, but let's be real. With all the adversity that these kids are facing, how? That's what I'm trying to tell you. You got to live in a space where you numb to move on.
Yes. It's true. It's
And
very
that's not
true.
a healthy space because you
Not.
said the skin grew over the wound, but the
Mm-hmm.
wound is still there.
Yes, it's still there.
So sometimes there's this new word that's going around. You and I, social workers, you know, triggers.
Yes. Yes.
There's triggers because it hasn't been healed.
Yeah. Yes. You are totally right.
We have to heal as a community. What did you say? Village. We can't even consider that
Mm-hmm.
ideology as yet.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's explosive. Everybody's traumatized. We need to heal.
But that's one of the words that's used a lot. Let's become the village as we were. But we can get back to that. You're totally right because we have to heal. We have
And
to have those conversations. We have to involve. We have to know what's going on with each other. And then we can know where our community is and how we're going to be parent to each other's children or a big brother or a big sister.
you know, you said it. You said it in a nutshell. We have to have these conversations. We have to curate safe spaces, non-judgmental spaces where we can have these conversations. You know, you and I are sitting down today and we've talked so many times before. We've talked in public, we've talked you know,
Yeah.
in open, safe spaces, and we've had conversations. But we have to keep pushing that bar. We have to keep elevating and understanding that there's work to do in our communities, you know. Trendsetters always say, you know, let's bring unity in the community. And the only way that we can bring that unity is by having these conversations and, you know, continuing the work, you know, and raising awareness of the importance of the healing. You know, we're all going through something, and that's where we need to start. We need to start in the understanding that even if you think that you not, you are, you know, and accepting that for whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Um, let me
You
ask.
know,
Okay.
I went to a funeral once. Our organization used to go to a school in Bushwick, a high school. There were four schools in the campus there, Bushwick campus. We were in one of the schools that we did a lot. In fact, that was our first school really that we were so very involved, the school doing so much for the young people. And then I got a phone call that a 17-year-old was shot right in front of his home. And the principal called me and wanted me to come in the school to speak to some of the students and all of that. And she said to me, when you come, bring some social worker stuff as well, you know, to regarding grief and what these kids were going. So I asked her how many students. She said it was about 40. She said, but I'm going to tell you something, they may not stay, you know. During that time, there was a lot of young people that was just being killed in schools at that time. We have shooting um, in several schools. We remember a big old shooting years before, right in Jefferson High School before it became four schools. We have shooting so many other schools killed. I mean, it was just so much. So I went into the school and you know, one of the board members I said, see if there's a McDonald's nearby, get some, ask for donation. The person was so generous. They sent us all these hamburgers and stuff and fries, you know. And we met, and I remember something. I can't remember the exact word, but I think it was a reverend that was called Reverend Youngblood, and he made a statement of a young man that was killed. You know, the statement may be about, is there an address for that person where that person is going? If there's an exact address, something to that. But he gives some other very strong word. I'm sorry, I bring it up without having all the facts. But I bring that to the young people there. And I think that kind of hold them in terms of also regarding a young person that was killed as well. And they were so angry. They listened. But when I went to the funeral, it was a totally different thing. I've never seen so many young people in my entire life
Wow.
at a funeral for another young. You see the anger on their face, you see the hurt. And I was there like I was so bleeding. I feel that I was bleeding for them. When I see the look, and there was this young man, I'll never forget him. And he walked and he walked and he was just walking. And I didn't know, like, you know, most of the other young people, they were in little groups together, but him was by himself. And I didn't know what to do. I go over and I said, can I hold your hands? And he said, yes. And I mean, he held my hand like he was holding it for life. And he squeezed my hand so hard, and I feel everything that was going through him. I think he was 16 or 17 years old, and he was not even in school at the time. He dropped out because of family situation. He didn't even live with his mother. According to him, he lived with a grandmother. And based on, he gave me a number to call him. And I mean, my heart so bleed for that young man that I want to pick him up and hold him close to my heart and just cry for him that he wouldn't have to cry. He wouldn't have to feel the pain that he was feeling. And I started to call the number he gave me. I never got him. The grandmother said, "Oh, he's not here. He's not here all the time. Sometime he comes." But based on the information that she gave me, it's like she don't even know where he lives.
Jesus.
And he wasn't in school. And I'm like, God, he's 16, 17. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen to him? What? And when you look, I'm like, there has to be another way.
These kids are hopeless.
Has to be another way.
These kids are hopeless. These kids are hopeless. I see kids all the time, and it looks like the light went out in their eyes. It's dim. There's no joy. There's
And
no,
they're kids, they should be enjoying life.
this is
They should be
kids.
happy. They should just be happy, laughing, not stressing,
Making
not
noise,
worrying, not the
dancing, music.
responsibilities on them.
Jesus.
How can that happen? How can we get them to find joy, to find peace? What do we do? And they grow up, some of them grow up so bitter, and you find people that call them to do their dirty work, and they get into the wrong circles, and that's it. Why a 13-year-old? A 13-year-old would take up a gun and go shoot somebody. In fact, where did they get that 13-year-old get that
Yeah.
gun?
Where are all the guns coming from? How come that this information is so accessible in our
Yeah.
community? That if you want a
Mm.
gun, I can get a gun. And this is what I've heard. If you want
Yeah.
a gun, you can get a gun. But you
Yeah.
can't get a job.
Ah, there you go.
I've heard people tell me, if you want a gun, you could get a gun. And the flip side of that, I walk up to some kids and was just talking to them, and they tell me, "Miss, they don't hire people like us. So you can get a gun, but you can't get a job."
Mm. Don't make any sense. Because they're not, as you say, hopeless. They're not being encouraged. They're not being told that you're special in the sense that you're unique, you are intelligent, you're
They're not
smart, you're
validated at
creative.
all. So many stories, you can go on forever. Come on. They're not being validated at all. Their feelings, their emotions, their consciousness is not being validated at all. What um what message? What message would you have for what message would you have? I'm sorry about that. I was getting a call. What message would you have for a family that's going through?
One of my first thing, and I use the word all the time, which I use a lot, love. If the family that going through a loss, I can say to that family, if it's a parent, a mother, it has to be a parent that I understand. And also, if it's a sibling, I can say I understand as well. Gun violence affects many different areas. A brother, sister, uncle, a grandmother, everywhere. So it is all over the place. I love you. I understand your circumstances, and I'm here. You tell me, I'm here. I listen. I can't offer A, B, and C to them in the beginning because I don't know what they need. And I may say that because I was there, I know. No, I don't, because each one, although it's so similar, how you deal with it is totally different. So I'm here for you. Wherever you are at, I'm going to meet you right there. And I'm here. You want to hear to listen? I'm here to listen. You want somebody to hold your hand? I'll hold your hand. You need somebody for a hug? I'm there. And I've done this. I continue to do this. I continue to do this. I was on a retreat in June, the ending of June, where with the DYCD, and this was for families that impacted by gun violence. And this place was packed with a whole lot of families for gun violence. I mean, it's a retreat, it's packed. And you see stories, you hear stories, and there was this mother that I met her before, and she had met me, but I don't think she even saw me those times because she was going through so much that she was not accepting and dealing with the loss of her son. These things are so sad. These things are so devastated that this mother is put into that position to lose a son
Or a
on
daughter.
her one of her other kids' birthday. So the other child said, "This birthday I can't celebrate it anymore.
Jesus.
I won't celebrate it because what is there? This was my present."
Jesus.
So these things, and then she has people telling her, "Oh, you cry too much. You're hurting your son." And people have to, you don't understand. So if you can't support, if you can't say something good, don't say anything at all. Or if you don't know what to say, don't say anything on that. Just say, "I'm here. I'm here to listen." That's it. Don't start to give advice and then you giving advice which is too devastating.
Re-traumatizes.
Yes, exactly. This woman is grieving her child and you are telling her that she's the one that hurting him and she need to let go. And no, you're not in that situation. And you may think it's a good way you're telling, and yes, it may be in your head, but for her, she's not seeing it at that. For that person, that mother, no, they are not. What do you say to a mother that has two children that was murdered? What do you say to that mother that have their only child that was killed? A mother who lost two sons, tell me. He said, "Miss Maxine, I can't grieve both of them together. To grieve one and then the other. How do you grieve one and then the other? You just listen." How? So these things, are so devastating to the mind of these women out there and fathers. And we know fathers deal different. They deal and they cope different than the mothers. We bawl, we carry on because our belly is empty, our home is empty. We're hurting, we feel it. She said to me, "Do you feel like you? Did you feel, Miss Maxine? Did you feel like your belly was empty?" Yes. I have my days when, yes, right
Yes.
now.
Yes.
I mean, what do you say? You hold her hand, you hug her neck. There is this mother, she lost her son. The an officer, oh, I met her, an officer gave her my number and said to call this lady, and she called me. So, she's part of the group,
Mhm.
but I would just connect to her. And she was battling cancer at the time and when her son was killed. And she said she had gotten over it. She went into remission.
Mhm.
And she said, our son, why did she go into remission?
Live.
And now our son died, And she was trying to deal with her son die. Then in the chat, somebody put last year, keep her in prayer because her older son is dead. And I lose myself, totally lost myself. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. Was in so much pain, and my pain was just so much for her. And I'm like, what do I say to this woman? What do I say? And I am going through all this, not figuring out, I don't know what to do. But she always said to me, Mother, she called me Mother Maxine. She said, whenever you text, whenever you call, it's like God knows that I need to hear from you. So you always at that time. Then she went back to her cancer. Her cancer came. She was in the hospital doing a procedure. And just my text came in when she went, as she leave the hospital, and it was my text. It could be a heart I send her, it could be a prayer. And she said, and then she went after the other son, she's back into remission. And she can't understand. And their other son just died naturally. And she felt it's a broken heart because him and his other brother was so close. And I went to that funeral. None of the mothers could go. And I went. And I tell you, it was so dark and gloomy. You hear her coming in, and she's wailing like an animal. People are lifting her, and she sat down there, Heidi, and I'm telling you, I sit in the back, like three chairs down, rows down. And I don't know, but I see a whole lot of people over her. And I want to know what was going on. And I said, I have to get up. I have to get up. And I went over there, and her hand was on her chest. And she's crying out, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And they're praying for her. And I pushed myself in. I pushed in and get all the way in. And I put my hand on her chest. And I wanted her to see me. And I know she saw me because of our eye connect. And they're all over her. And I'm just praying for her healing. And as she's bawling and everybody's over her praying, she starts to whimper, just whimpering, and it's going down. And I'm like, this is madness. I'm standing in that place, Heidi. That was my word I used to call it. Madness, when those thoughts come in your head and you want to get up and you want to run butt naked. I'm telling you, just run and never stop running. Just run and run and run. Just run until everything ripped out of you. Just run that you can't feel anymore.
Jeez.
People doesn't know. This is what these gun violence does to us. Our children are dying, husband out there dying, wives out there, family member. This is what it ripped us apart. It separate us. It bring us a limb over there, a limb there, and that. We are so broken, so broken. They as a child you hear of I don't know if it was a poem or a story of Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall and all of that. And they said when he fall off, he broke and he couldn't put together. That's us. That's me.
Jesus.
That's these mothers losing their only child. And people may say, oh, you have two left. But
Jesus.
the two doesn't replace that one. So that's yes, you have two more, but they don't replace that because each kid have their own unique individual self. Gun violence, it is tearing us apart. It is tearing us apart in every way. And we have to figure out. I think a lot of things some of us figure. I think a lot of things I know, you know, what can be done. But we have to come as one. We have to come together to do it. And that's how it goes.
That's it. That's it.
We have to. Every time I hand a scholarship to a young man or a young woman, I think I had on a couple years to my life. That rebirth, that passion in me, whatever that in to see life in these young people say, I want to go to college. Give somebody some food and they're like so excited because they didn't have a meal. And somebody going to school and they have their school bag for the first time going to school because you helped them and they're bragging in their new sneakers. We have children in Jamaica. I met a young lady selling little books in BJ's years ago. She was from Africa. She wanted to go to college and she didn't have any money. So that's what they would do. They were on some student kind of thing. So they were selling books. And I couldn't buy one. And I gave her my card. I said, call me. I think I work. So I was getting ready to do one of our scholarship event. I came home excited, tell all the board members. We were able to give her a scholarship. Not only give her a scholarship, but we help her throughout her college years with books, with books. On the website, she's one of those students that acknowledge the amount of help that we give. And as I'm talking, I may not expand on all the things that we do because I
But let's talk
can.
about that. Let's talk about that for 1 minute. Let's talk about the scholarships. Let's talk about the scholarships because I know that you give scholarships. Talk to me about that. You talked to us about this young lady, but what's the scholarship for? I know that you said books, but elaborate. Tell us what you do.
So the scholarship comes with a lot of things in terms of what I'd said before, books, clothing. So that's under that umbrella. So when we give that physical check, especially to the high school student that graduate from high school and going to college, we know they're going. They got their acceptance letter and all of that. We know that based on the work that we do, they have to write an essay on gun violence and all of those other stuff. And standing up there and handing them that check and seeing their face, the kid who said, I don't know what I would wear to prom. The kid
Yes.
that said, oh, I can buy my shoes for graduation. And that kid that knows that they're going away to college. So they know if it's 500 or $800, it may not be a whole lot. But for a kid, a good kid, quote unquote, who doesn't have money, $500 is a lot for them. And it's in their name. The excitement you see, they already know what they want their money to buy.
Absolutely.
They want to
Absolutely.
get, oh, that's some money. They're going to pay it on that computer, that laptop, or whatever they're going to get. Some new clothes, couple of new clothes, as long as they spend it wise and don't go buy one pants for $200. You know, but you see the excitement in them.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That is an achievement because they graduate high school. They graduate, it's an accomplishment for them. And it is so big for us and how proud I am as if this is my kid, and I've said it. This is my child. They are my sons and daughters. They are my grandchildren. Now I'm a great grandmother, so I can say they are great grandchildren too. That's one of it. They're family. They're family, and they have set an example for you that they said, I can do it, and they graduate. Some of these kids graduate with such a honor from high school. And when you hear some of their stories, that's the other good part of it. They struggle. There was a young man that used to bring cold cuts to school and bread, his little mayo and lettuce and so on. And he would make sandwiches. And the faculty would buy from him. You know, the principal allow him. And they would buy because he was doing something that he didn't have to go on the street to do something else. He was doing honest work. When you see those kids, you feel like, that's what I'm saying. You can do it. You can do it. You know, and he ended up he went to, where did he go he went, I think, to California, to some college down there. He wanted to do arts. When he was leaving, we took him to Staples, and we pick out the best stuff for him. He chose what he wanted. And we are happy when we do those things. We are excited, you know. As I said, my son Loxley didn't get that opportunity. He did not. So when we can do that I feel like I'm a proud mama. I'm a proud mama doing this. And
So
when you
proud,
have,
where can we support you? Where can the Trendsetters audience and the audience that's gonna see this video, where can they find the Carlton Locksley Bennett Foundation, you know?
so our email is clbfinc@gmail.com. Better yet, go on our website, clbfinc.org. You know, and you will see everything there. We have Zelle again at clbfinc@gmail.com, you know, and that's what we do. We have a donate button on our website, so you can donate. You know, give us a call at 347-404-2590. And we love what we're doing. We love the kids, we love the parents, and we just love, because I feel that it's very important, especially in a time like this, more to demonstrate it. And I do demonstrate it. I believe that I've been demonstrating love from I was a kid, just for people to feel appreciated and loved, you know, and it's so important at a time like this.
So again, you can reach Miss Bennett at clbfinc.org. That's her website. And you can email her at clbfinc@gmail.com.
Yes.
And we have to thank you so much for sharing your stories, sharing everything that you do in the community, sharing your love, sharing yourself so unconditionally. You're a phenomenal trendsetter, and I'm so honored to know you. And, you know, we have a lot of stuff that we're going to be working on collaboratively together. And, you know, I'm so looking forward to it. You know, may God continue to bless you and shine on you. And I know that every day your son is with you and smiling with you too. You know,
Thank you so much. It's an honor and a privilege as well for the invitation and to tell my story and others' story, because this is not just my story.
No.
It's everyone's story, because many, many people have been affected by gun violence. So it's all of our community. I've said to someone many years ago, if you're in your community and you heard a gunshot, you are affected by gun violence.
That's right.
You know, when young people say to me, "Oh, Miss Maxine, we know the routine." Our father tell us and our mother, "Get on the floor."
Yeah.
Get on the floor,
And
under the bed.
the schools now have shutdowns and things that they've
Yes,
placed in order. So we know that this is a tragedy, this is an epidemic, this is a pandemic, this is
yes,
everything
yes.
all rolled into one ball of trauma, and we gotta do something. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all your efforts in, thank you. Thank you for who you are.
Thank you.
And
Thank
we
you.
appreciate you. And again, Miss Maxine can be found at the Carlton Locksley. Look the t-shirt. May I have my t-shirt? Carlton
Yes,
Locksley Bennett Foundation. That's CLBF Inc. At no clbfinc.org. That's her organization website. You can go on, donate, support. Thank you again,
yes,
Maxine, that
yes.
you're
Thank
gonna,
you. Thank you.
this won't be the only time or the last time, we are talking about continuing conversations. So this is just the beginning of many, many, many endeavors that we're going to get involved in. And thank you.
Thank you very much for
Have a
having me.
good
God
night. Have a
bless.
good night.
Good night.